I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, from the 1st of January through the 25th, the atmosphere really favored at the jet stream level, very strong winds coming off of Japan. But the pattern really split just off the west coast, and we can see that much of the jet stream action went to the north, and then there was a bit of a subtropical component here that really raced from Mexico here into the North Atlantic. We can even see the top of the Walker cell right here, which has been associated with this La Niña. But the pattern had split over the west coast, and as a result, the anomalous flow, in other words, when you compare this to normal, well, this is kind of what we were getting, and that is not the setup to be returning moisture to California. Well, of course, in the last 3 days, this has changed dramatically, and we can see that here by going to GOES 17. Just a spectacular view of this deep cyclone that's sitting off of the west coast of the United States, bringing in this nearly constant stream of moisture into California. And it is spreading throughout much of the west and Pacific Northwest and is turning into a sizable snow and rainfall event where we're seeing quite a bit of flooding and just tremendous amounts of snow added here to the Sierra Nevada. Now, as I was watching this animation early this morning, I do have to show you something incredible. If we just zoom in on the center of that circulation, primarily due to wind shear, you can actually see on the back side of this, look at all the small little vortices that are spinning up. It's just amazing to be able to see what the atmosphere is capable of doing here with these high-resolution satellite images. Okay, from there, when we look back over the last 72 hours, there's a few things to point out here. This was our big snowfall event earlier in the week. We then had the system that pushed over here toward the east, dumping a lot of snow from parts of Missouri through Tennessee, Kentucky, and then getting over to Virginia and North Carolina. Remember, to the south of this, we saw quite a bit of severe weather, including, if I just show you real quick, this was some of the storm reports from Monday where we were watching this area for the greatest risk of severe weather. And of course, we've heard a lot about the tornado that went through parts of Alabama here. But what you notice over here on the west coast, this is only the front half of the total amount of precipitation we're expecting out of this system coming into the west. And we're going to take a look at how much more snow we can get in the Sierra Nevada, Klamath Mountains, and what else we can add here to the Cascades and the Northern Rockies. It's great to see across the Four Corner states, especially in Arizona, this much snow coming in. But if we just look back over the last 3 days, again, here's what we saw in terms of that heavy snow corridor that put down over a foot from parts of northern Kansas, Nebraska, and through Iowa, and then clipping here parts of southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois. And then the system that rolled through last night that went through Missouri, southern Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, which this morning is now over here in North Carolina putting down some snow. So speaking of snow, you know that I like to look at this map, and I've just produced a new version of it. It's through January 27th, so through last night. This is snowfall this year compared to normal. Now, what I want to show you on this is that these are the areas I'm going to watch most carefully. First of all, we do have a system that's going to come out this weekend that's going to go right here across Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. And there's a potential very heavy snowfall corridor here. This system will transition into what we call a Miller B-type East Coast system, and I'll watch along this corridor for adding a lot of snow as well. Then, get into late next week, there's going to be a system that is going to merge in the Central Plains that might in this area put down a lot of snow from Colorado clear to northern Wisconsin, and I'll watch that very closely. And then as we get into February, with the change in the temperature pattern, if we start to actually blow some good cold air across the Great Lakes, we could see the lake effect snow areas really starting to pick up. But we're not done across the west coast, and we still have the potential for several more feet of snow here in the Sierra Nevada, but also helping out parts of the Northern Rockies and the Cascades as well. Now, early this morning, this was the system I was watching yesterday, which spread snow from Missouri, Illinois, into the Ohio River Valley, including Kentucky and Tennessee, that we're now putting down some snow right here in parts of North Carolina early this morning. And the snow line is continuing to shift to the south. But before I show you that, take a just look at the stream of moisture that's been coming into Central Valley of California. And this has been producing a lot of flooding and both debris flows and mudslides, but big time snow here in the Sierra Nevada mountains. So just look at that constant flow coming from that deep system just offshore. But in North Carolina, I was watching a radar this morning, and I was interested because this radar image shows you precipitation type, not the intensity, but the type really. And we can see the blues here showing us where the snow is. And I'll be honest, I followed this to about 3:30 Eastern time and then watched it shift further to the south just as I was beginning to record. And I do want to note, you see that little lightning strike right there just to the west of Raleigh. If you heard some thunder this morning at 3:30, that was real, which means some of the snow is convective. So we're getting some big fat snowflakes and some pretty high snowfall rates. And it's really coming down to the northern part of the state here. So that's what's going on right here in North Carolina. So we still have winter weather advisories, including a winter storm warning out here for the northern part of North Carolina this morning. Got some cold air coming into the northern plains and the upper Midwest, including the Northeast as well, so some wind chill advisories there. But out in the west, winter storm warnings, which are in the pink here. Then we have the winter weather advisories and then the blizzard warning here. But there's also flood watches and flood warnings in California as well. So we just turn our attention to the high-resolution NAM model. Now this was the 0Z run, so we can actually see last night the snow spreading here across North Carolina, but it's out by midday today, and high pressure builds in. Do expect to see some lake effect snow here, but if we watch this again, turn your attention to the west coast. We're just midway through this big winter system here, and it's going to last, let's watch it again, throughout the day here on Thursday, getting now into early Friday morning before that wave cuts here into the Four Corner states and emerges as a deep low Saturday morning in the Central Plains. And I'll tell you more in a few minutes on where that one is going. First, though, you can see the flow of the jet stream, highly variable, but this is what's targeting the west coast here. We then build into a bit of a ridge, and this is the trough exiting that was giving us that snow over North Carolina this morning. Now let me get the drawings off there, and we'll come back to this wave. You see, what's going to happen is this wave's going to go from a positive tilt as it comes through California and end up right here in the mid part of the country later, about 3.5 days from now, as this negatively tilted wave, and that is going to invigorate a deep low that's going to cut across Illinois and potentially bring in some snow. But before I get there, this is what we're expecting just as the tail end of the first system coming into California pulls through. So I know this is over the next 5 days here, but most of this is coming here in the next 48 hours or so. How much? Well, you've been looking at the map. We still have an additional 2 to 5 inches of precipitation coming, including several more feet of snow in the Sierra Nevada. But notice it's getting up into the I-5 corridor. It's here north of the Snake River Valley. In fact, let's just go look at the snow from the operational European. We do see the potential here for an additional 30 to, in some locations, over 60 inches of snow at the highest peaks. And that does curl around the Klamath Mountains here, but includes the Cascades. And just here in the Salmon River Valley, the Payette National Forest area, we're going to get some more snow here just north of the Snake River Valley. So that is it for the West Coast from this first system. Now, where do they go from here? Well, we've already seen the front of this through the next 60 hours. So let's get there with the European model. And we're going to go right to Saturday morning. So the wave that came through California is now sitting here. And what we're going to watch is from Saturday morning to the afternoon and then evening hours, that low begins to take shape right basically in Kansas City. We have a lot of good model agreement on this. So we're going to see some snow Saturday night already spreading to the north and east of this. Now this low pressure system, which has got very strong winds around it, is then going to move basically towards St. Louis and then set up shop right here on I-70, almost near the town of Effingham, Illinois. And you can see the position of the snow band on the northern side of this and even pushing over here toward the Appalachian Mountains, where due to this high pressure cell, we're going to get some snow right up here against the Appalachian Mountains. What will ultimately help determine the position of this low is how high this high pressure system is on the border between Ontario and Quebec. And that's helped giving us the pressure gradient here for the stronger winds, for the snow in this area. And it will tell us if the low is going to sit here or if it could move both north and south. There's still quite a bit of uncertainty there. But this low, as it goes through the Ohio River Valley, so over to southern Indiana, and then on the border of Ohio and Kentucky here by Sunday night, it's going to transition. And what we call this particular storm setup is a Miller B type East Coast storm system. So you notice to the south, heavy rains in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. And what's going to happen is the backside low is going to give way to the development of a coastal low coming off of North Carolina. And those coastal lows in the Miller B race up right here along the coast. And therefore, we're going to watch for the transition for potentially heavy snow right in through this area, possibly clipping through Washington, D.C., but spreading here through parts of New York, Massachusetts, as this system pulls on off to the north and east. Very windy, very heavy snow, and behind it, high pressure moves in. Through the Canadian prairies, some light snow, but not much. But we do notice that on Monday, getting into Tuesday, another round of precipitation. Nothing like we're having right now, but moving into the west coast United States. And as I let this play on out, while high pressure dominates the beginning and middle of the week in the midsection of the country, we do get a return of some warmer conditions out ahead of this system right here next Thursday morning. So what I'm going to tell you is by next Thursday morning, if this low does form in this position, we're going to watch this corridor right here for the heaviest snow. All right? This could be a big system, and I'll show you the likelihood of its formation in just a few moments. But let's first go take a look at the system that's coming through here on Sunday and the ensemble position of the low. Now, what I want to stress again is, depending on how strong this high pressure cell is and where the wave is as it kind of inflects through this area, the farther to the south we take this low, and this is again is just the cluster of low pressure center positions from the European model, the farther to the south it goes, the farther you can sink that rain-snow line. But if it does move up toward Springfield or Bloomington, Illinois, then we would push that rain-snow line farther to the north. As it stands, the probability of getting 3 inches of snow out of this system is very high in a corridor stretching from Iowa through southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, across this part of Indiana and Ohio. And then remember, as the system transitions into that Miller B type setup, heavy snows in through this area. But this is the probability of getting at least 6 inches of snow. And again, that right now is the most preferred corridor. But this could move south if that high pressure system strengthens and the low sets up much farther into southern Illinois. Boy, if it goes down to Paducah, then this is really going to sink pretty far to the south. So watch that with me over the next couple of days. That next system for the Midwest here on next Thursday, just want to point out that there's still quite a bit of model spread here. So again, depending on where this forms, from Colorado to northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, this could be the heaviest snow corridor here with a lot of rain out ahead of this. Now let's come over here to that Miller B system, and I want to be careful that when you look at this map, we don't pull off snowfall amounts and take them as truth here, because this is just one model simulation. But the current setup is, here's the heaviest snow corridor, then transitioning along the Appalachian Mountains, getting up into Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, this area, right in through here. Now I'd like to show you that transition. Ready? So here's the low through Kansas City, well, south of Kansas City here. We're towards Springfield, really. And then as you notice, let me step you back there. It cuts through here into Illinois, and then it moves over like this as we get into Sunday night to now be set up in this part of Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio. Now at this point, that low pressure system is going to give way to one that's developing here just along the East Coast. And so what you notice here is this now becomes the favored low that takes off just off the Carolina coast and races up the East Coast. And therefore on the back side of this is where we're anticipating the heaviest snows. So to show you that again, this is out through the next 6 days, we do see that this is the best corridor at picking up at least 6 inches of snow out of that transitioning Miller B storm system here, okay? Beyond that, day 10, take a look at this. The jet stream highly amplified, but it is open and moving. And this trough here, I just want to make a point, is finally connected to some pretty cold air that has moved into Canada toward the Canadian archipelago. But the high pressure cell that's sitting here means we're going to feed this with quite a bit of moisture, and systems that come out of this trough will race through this area. And it tends to be the pattern we're going to see all the way out to day 15. Now, what this pattern is going to favor is better moisture for the Northwest. It's going to favor active storm track here through the Great Lakes and the Ohio River Valley, but this is drier for the Southwest and drier for California. And we're going to have to watch how big of a ridge we get down here to see if the cold air can make it clear to the southeast coast. But this is what we were talking about. Active pattern coming through here in terms of precipitation, but we do favor drier along the west coast given the position of that trough ridge system looking out exclusively here at week 2. So we're going to keep things going across the midsection of the country over toward the southeast, the Ohio River Valley, and the northeast as we work away from February 3rd to February 11th. Temperatures. Cold air in place this morning. This was 3 o'clock in the morning temperatures. Look at this, coming through parts of the upper Midwest and here over in the Northeast. Where are those temperatures going today? Well, this is max temperatures today, so we're very cool, except for in parts of the high plains getting up into Montana. From there, as we go into the day on Friday, here's Friday into Saturday. The cool air transitions east, and a big warm-up happens out ahead of the next system. So the next system shows up on Sunday, so there it is, and now you got the cooler air coming in behind it, but, cool relatively here, actually closer to normal. And then once again, more mild conditions forming in the central plains with the coolest air here over the east as we go from Monday into Tuesday. But change is happening as we discussed, and as I look out here into the day 5 through 10 time period, this is where the colder air is really starting to build up in parts of Canada. And then the new model runs for the middle part of February are now showing this. The European is now caught up to the cold air that the GFS has been advertising. The big questions: how big is the ridge here over the Bahamas and Cuba to keep the southeast away from longer duration shots at colder air? But it does appear coming into the west coast, coming into the northern plains, hitting here in parts of the Midwest all the way down to the south, central part of the United States. We're going to get some cold air that's going to come in at times and maybe set up shop for a few days, unlike what we've seen so far this winter. So this is a big change coming for the month of February. There's support in the tropics out of this. I mean, the MJO going over to phase 7, that tends to let more cold air out in this area. But like I said, the tropics are beginning a pretty big transition because this La Niña is really starting to lose some of its steam. It had been giving us some stronger trade winds in that area, but they have since backed off, and the La Niña is beginning to fade as we work our way toward Northern Hemisphere spring. Now, that's going to allow a lot of other things to take over. It's going to change the momentum transport out of the tropics. It's likely going to change the strength of the jet stream coming off of Japan, and could give us a much different look for February than we've seen so far across North America when you think about January and December. But a lot to be paying attention to here with this La Niña beginning to fade. One thing I do want everyone to watch with me, we just keep an eye on the ocean temperatures here. That area off the Baja of California is just critical for upcoming summer precipitation and temperature patterns, especially for the Midwest. And if we keep getting cooler in here, it's going to be something I'm going to be talking about a lot more in spring. But here's the last graphics I'm going to show you. As we go through the time period of February 12th through March 12th, we continue with that active storm track coming into the northwest, cutting through the Great Lakes, coming out here in the Ohio River Valley. Wherever that ridge sets up, it could be drier to the southeast, and with no strong subtropical flow yet, it's going to continue to favor drier conditions in California in the parts of the southwest. But we did get a lot here lately. I think we're going to have better chances of getting some cold air out. Polar vortex is still disrupted, but with this ridge sitting right over here, this will be the zone where things are going to be most active. So we'll keep an eye on it, keep reporting back to you, all right? Appreciate your attention today. Have a good rest of your week. Thanks.